None of us would be here but for one person, and that's the defendant. Now, I know that seems obvious, but let's think about it. Danny Spann wouldn't be here. Ezra Evans wouldn't be here. Matt Gregory wouldn't be here. Terry Decker certainly wouldn't be here. And Lisa Little wouldn't be here but for one person, and that's the defendant. Now, it is my duty to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty of the crimes we've charged her for. The defendant lit the fuse that started this whole fire. And now, to give you some reasonable doubt, the defendant is giving you a sort of choose your own adventure of reasonable doubt. PTSD. Well, if you don't buy that, she was under duress. She was forced to do it. And if you don't buy that still, well, it was some kind of drug-induced psychosis. Well, let's go over the facts as we present them, and let's talk about that. Planning. We know from the testimony of Danny Spann that the defendant was planning this long before she came to him. She'd already lit the fuse before she got to Danny. We don't know exactly when, but we know it was sometime before February 18th, because on February 18th, she brings Danny Spann into the scheme. Is she under duress here? Was she under duress before? Is this the beginning of some drug-induced psychosis that lasts for weeks? February 18th and 21st, defendant's worried she doesn't have a weapon to pull off her scheme. And what does that lead us to? February 22nd, she brings G into the plan. And why? Because he has that weapon. Is this when she's under duress? She comes to them. She came to Danny Spann and she came to G. The defendant did that. February 25th, the defendant initiates the plan. Now we're going from the planning stage to initiation. We're on February 26th. About midnight, defendant stages a fight with Danny Spann. This is the beginning of her plan. We know from Danny Spann that this was a staged fight. For what reason? So that she could come up with an excuse to stay at Terry Decker's house so that she could facilitate the robbery. 4 a.m., the defendant urges Lisa to go to bed. We heard from Lisa that this was a little bit off to her. But she insists, please, go to bed, go to bed with Terry Decker. And when she does that, what does she do? The defendant unlocks the back door. Another step. Is she under duress here? She could have made a different choice here. She could have stepped away from this fire that she'd started. She could have kept the door locked. She could have turned her phone on. She didn't. And at 7 a.m., 2 masked people come into that same back door that she had left unlocked. We heard from Matt Gregory. We heard from Ezra Evans. They were told it was going to be unlocked. It was. They stuck a gun in Terry Decker and Lisa Little's face, and they taped up Terry Decker. And they robbed him. How'd they know to rob him? Because the defendant told them what to do. Get the checks. Get them to write the checks. Give them to Lisa to go to the bank. 8 a.m., Lisa Little is at the bank to cash those checks, and she gets a bank teller to call the police. This is another great opportunity for the defendant to just stop this madness. What does she do? She calls Danny Spam to warn them. To warn them. 8:30, the defendant has Danny Spam pick her up. Meanwhile, Lisa Little's arrested. Something not having to do with this scheme. But she's out of the way now. And any suspicion that was on the defendant, for now, is gone. And what does the defendant do? Well, no one knows the wiser. She could step away at this point. She could have even went to the police. But what does she do instead? She forges yet another check from Terry Decker and goes to another bank and tries to cash said check. Is she under duress here? Still under this drug psychosis? Police respond to the bank to apprehend defendant. Okay, finally, here's a chance for her to give herself up. She's not even done yet here. She gets into a car under the influence and evades, runs from the police. Well, let's talk about the aftermath. This fire is blazing. It has done its damage. Now what does the defendant want to do? She wants to get out of the way, make sure she is not burned. She writes a self-serving letter to Danny from jail, detailing a new plan. Hey, remember, we were forced to do this. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. That doesn't work. She undergoes a psychiatric evaluation by Dr. Kevin Finesco. The psychiatrist spent 2 years in rehab, was suspended for fraudulent data. But let's put that aside. How does he come to his evaluation? Through the defendant, talking to the defendant. She is steering the narrative, as she has this entire time. And here's what she wants you to do. She wants you to choose one. Was she suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder? Was she under duress this whole time, forced to do these things? Or was it the drugs? Drugs hurt-fault you? That would be a negative to all. She is responsible for her actions. She got this fire going. Aggravated burglary, aggravated robbery. They took the property that she told them to take. Especially aggravated kidnapping. They tied Terry Decker down and forced Lisa Little to go to the bank based on defendant's plan. Defendant then forged a check, and then she tried to get away while under the influence. Again, it's my job to prove reasonable doubt, and I want you to go back there to deliberate and look at the facts as they are, and I want you to find the defendant guilty of aggravated burglary, guilty of aggravated robbery, guilty of especially aggravated kidnapping, guilty of forgery, and so on. She lit this flame, she lit this fuse, and let it watch as it engulfed Danny Spam, as it engulfed Matt Gregory, as it engulfed Ezra Evans, as it engulfed Terry Decker, as it engulfed Lisa Little. Now she wants your help to cut the fuse so that she's unharmed. But let's let her feel the heat here and put her where this case and her belong in the ash